Hi guys, I'm Anita and I'm back with another video, and today it's time for my weekly wrap up. It is Sunday again and tomorrow I'm starting back at work and I'm not really ready for that. I would actually really like another week of not working. But you know, sometimes that's just life. So over the past week I managed to finish 3 things. I don't know if I think this format actually challenges me to read a little bit more, because yesterday when I was thinking about the fact that I had to film a video today and I'd only finished 1 book, I was like, oh no, I need to get working on something. And so I knew I had like about 100 and 150 pages left of 1 book and about 100 pages left of another book, and I just started trying to make my way through that, and I read the last like 150 or so pages this morning, and I haven't really been doing anything else than reading, so yeah. But let's get into this. The first thing that I finished this past week was Witchmark by C.L. Polk. This is part of my Newts reading, and it is also a 2018 release. It was released back in May or June, I believe, and it is a part of Tor.com's short story part, even though it's like over 200 pages. I don't know when it defines a short story, but it's not very long at least. This is a historical set one. It's set around the Edwardian time, like I think just after the First World War, perhaps. At least the protagonist we're following is working at this war hospital with veterans and trying to help them after they've been at war. And also things are starting to happening to these people, and it suddenly turns into this mystery where he has to figure out who the murderer is. And so that was an interesting twist that I didn't realize it was, because I didn't know. I rarely go into books knowing a lot about it. The only thing I knew that this was a historical set book, it had some witchy stuff, and that it was LGBT themed, and it lived up to all of those 3 things, so that was good. But let's get into the breakdown. I give the characters 7 out of 10. It took me a bit of time to connect to the characters, but by just over the halfway point I really got invested in them and was interested in what was happening to them, so I give them a 7 out of 10. The atmosphere was captured really well, I think, so I give that an 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed the writing, and the writing style was decent and the pacing was pretty good for the most part, and I liked the mystery elements that was added to it. It kept me sort of trying to guess along. But at some places I think that the pacing could be a little bit better, and so I give it a 6 out of 10. The plot was one I really enjoyed. It was a mix of things that I didn't know. I didn't know all of them, but it was a mix of things that I really like, and then they added the mystery element, and that worked out really well, so I ended up giving the plot a 7 out of 10. The overall intrigue is probably, I mean, it took some time for me. Like the first half I wasn't very interested in it, so I sort of found it hard for me to actually pick up the book and listen to it. But after the halfway point I really got into the story and really wanted to figure out what was going on by the end. So I give it, and the intrigue, a 6 out of 10. A little more than halfway, but not quite up there. The logic gets a 7 out of 10 because it was really pretty well-crafted mystery, and I didn't think that anything had any plot holes concerning with that element part of this story, and it seemed pretty realistic towards its time as well. And the overall enjoyment gets a 6 out of 10 because the first half really lacked something for me, and the last half was pretty good, but still not like outstandingly good. So that's why I followed about a 6 out of 10. And it gives an overall score of 6.71, and that gives a 3.5 stars out of 5 stars. The next thing that I finished was Bad Unicorn by Platt F. Clark. This is a middle grade story about a boy called Max who discovers he has this book called The Codex of Infinite Nobility, and it's something that everyone wants their fingers on, but not everyone can read it. Max is actually the only one that can read it and understand what's going on in it, because turns out that he has magical powers, and And then there's a unicorn called Princess the Destroyer, and she's the worst creature in this world. She's the most dangerous creature in this world. She just happens to kill anything that she can find and that she wants to eat, and she especially loves humans. So yeah, her motto is, why else would they give her a horn if it was not for killing purposes? And that was kind of funny. But let's get into the breakdown of this and how my enjoyment went. For the characters, I give them 7 out of 10 because I really like Max and his group of friends. I think they were really great. But I think that every time we saw things from Princess the Destroyer, it got a little bit too much on her hand. I didn't feel connected to her even though she's a villain. I mean, I felt like it was a little too out there for me to really get along with it. The atmosphere gets an 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed the setting. I thought that, first up, this is set partly in this fantasy world that is another dimension thing, and also in our world, but then they have some time travel and they end up in this robot sort of world, and I thought that part of it was really interesting. And it has a lot of geeky moments as well because of them being stuck in the place with all of these robotic things. There was a lot of these old arcade games that would come to life, and that was really funny. The writing gets a 7 out of 10. I thought it was a pretty decent writing. Especially when I read things from Max's perspective and those chapters, and some of the Princess Destroyer chapters was okay, but for the most part I found them a little bit boring. The plot gets a 6 out of 10. The plot was funny for the most part. When it came down to it, there was things that I didn't find as funny and as great as I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a little bit different, and it didn't really deliver on that front. The intrigue gets a 6 out of 10. As I said, I really enjoyed Max's chapters. I thought they were really funny and very interesting, and I learned a lot about all of the other creatures in this world. But every time I had to read from Princess the Destroyer, I just kept thinking, I'm just gonna put it down now. I don't really want to keep on reading. For the logic, for the most part, it was good, but I think that there were just some things that didn't add up. I think it was to do with, again, the princess, the unicorn, and so I give that a 7 out of 10. And the overall enjoyment gets a 7 out of 10 because I actually enjoyed this book for the most part, and every time I read it pretty fast. And it is, I think, the target audience, that middle grade age, would really enjoy this one. I find it a lot of fun. So for the target audience, it works really well, and so I give it a 7 out of 10. And this gives an overall score of 6.86, and this gives also a 3.5 out of 5 stars. The last and final thing that I finished this past week was finally Night Shift by Stephen King. This is the first short story collection that he made. It features all of the short stories that he wrote in the beginning of his career up until this point. He added them in a collection, and it's called Night Shift, and it has a lot of famous short stories by Stephen King that I didn't know about them before, but I know that they've been adapted to movies. It includes stories that were inspired the films Cat's Eye, Children of the Corn, and Graveyard Shift. So at least those 3, and yeah, I had a lot of fun reading a lot of these stories. I think that there was a lot of really great stories that I wouldn't have not wanted to read, if you will. There was a couple of stories in here that I only rated 2 and 2.5 stars, and a handful of 3 stars, but for the most part, they were actually 4, 4.5, or 5 stars. My favorite stories in here were The Mangler. That one freaked me out a lot, and I gave that 5 out of 5 stars. The Boogeyman, also 5 out of 5 stars, and then I also gave The Lawnmower Man 5 out of 5 stars. Those 3 stories were the only ones that I rated 5 stars, but my just under that, I would like to give some honorable mentions to the ones that I rated 4.5 stars, and those were Strawberry Spring. That was a really good story as well. The Ledge, and Quitters Inc. Those 3 stories were really creepy in their own way. And especially the last one made me happy that I never got into the habit of smoking. Yeah, that was a really tough one. So definitely a lot of great stories in here, and my average rating came down to a 3.78 out of 5 with all of the ratings added together and then divided by the amount of stories in here. I got 3.78, and then I will just automatically round it up to 4 stars because it's way over 3.5. I would give this a 4 out of 5 stars. It was a really good collection. I think that a lot of people will find some really interesting stories in here. I am planning on writing a full review of this where I talk a little bit about each of the stories if you're interested. I probably won't have this made before I upload the video today. But by the time that I do my next batch wrap up, I will make sure to have it linked in my reviews. And also I will put it in the description later on, or you can check out on my Goodreads when I post it on there. Because I have some things to say about all of the stories, so I thought a Goodreads review would be a good thing. I think this has too many stories in here for me to do a single video review of it, as I did with Stories of Your Life and Others. That's only like 7 stories. This has like 20 stories in here, so quite a different amount, and so I want to write a Goodreads review, so look out for that. So these were the 3 things that I finished this past week. I'm really happy with that I finished the night shift finally. I'm also happy that I finished the other 2 things because it got me started on my newt reading. But other than that, over the past week I have been working on Valor by John Gwynne, but I have sort of stopped it for the moment because I know Michael sort of stopped, and I'm not sure if he's going to be picking up. I would like to body read it because it's a lot more fun. So if it helps him to wait until next month, then possibly going to do that. But I'm currently on page 180 of this one, and I'm enjoying it a lot already. I have a couple of tabs already, as you can see. Mostly just yellow or green. Green is for when there's a plot point that I wasn't aware that was going to happen. So, and I also started on Reaperman by Terry Pratchett, the next book in the Discworld, because this will fit one of my newts as well, and I've really wanted to get back into the Discworld, as you know. So I'm planning on finishing that before next weekend for sure. Planning on working on this book over the next week and see how much I get through it. I don't know if I will finish it, but I'll definitely try to work on this today and see how that goes. So yeah, this was all I had for you today. Definitely let me know in the comments down below what you've been reading over the past week. Have you any recommends to me? Have you read any of the books that I have been reading, and what were your thoughts on them? And if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next video very soon. Goodbye!